You're ready to learn how to use PowerCLI to do cool things with virtual machines. Let's take a look at how to do these in the lab environment. As you can see, I'm already connected from PowerCLI into my vCenter server. And having made that connection, I can now say exciting things such as git-vm. As you can see, I have roughly a dozen virtual machines here, and I can see what their power state is. I can see how much memory, how much CPUs, and additionally, there is other information that's available. I'll show you how to find that other info in a bit. Sometimes you'll want to know about all the VMs. Other times you'll want to know about a specific VM. As you can see with this command, by adding a simple argument to my command line, I can tell the git-vm cmdlet that I'm only interested in this one virtual machine. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And as you can see, I'm getting back the same type of information, but this time it's for a single virtual machine. Now I'm going to change that previous command just slightly. I'm going to use a variable to store the return value of the git-vm cmdlet. That way, later on, if I need to see information about that virtual machine, I can just type the variable name and it will give me info like that. I'm going to say pipe select, and then I'm going to specify what type of information I want. So for example, perhaps I want to know the name of each of this virtual machine, and perhaps I want to know its power state. And one more piece of info, this is something new that we didn't see before. Why don't we also find out which ESXi server the virtual machine is on. So let's hit enter and see what we get. This time, I'm seeing the name of the VM, its power state, and exactly which ESXi server it's on. Now, in the example I just showed you, I did that for one VM, but if I want to, I could change this to display information about all the VMs. Again, I'm seeing the same three pieces of information I just saw, but I'm seeing them for all the virtual machines. Now, at this point, you're probably asking yourself, how did Brian know what the name of the property was to find out which ESXi server the VM's running on? Or for that matter, how do we find out what all the properties are? Once again, I'm using git-vm, but this time I'm piping into another commandlet, which is also part of PowerShell, a commandlet called git-member. Let's hit enter. And as you can see, I see information about various properties of these virtual machine objects, including here is VM host, along with other properties that I could look up. Let me introduce you to PowerCLI's new-vm cmdlet. Now in this particular example, we're using the -name parameter to indicate the name of the new VM that we want deployed. Followed by -vm host, we're using that parameter to indicate the FQDN of the ESXi server that we want the virtual machine deployed upon. -data store is used to indicate which data store. There are other options for things such as connecting the machine to a particular network, but the key thing I want you to see here is the -template parameter. The -template, Ubuntu -template -20-4, that's the name of the template in vSphere that we want to use to deploy the new virtual machine from. Make sense? Let's hit enter and see what happens. As you can see, PowerCLI is letting us know that it's doing the deployment. If we rush on over to the vSphere client, you can see that the virtual machine is actually being deployed. Well, that was quick. That was less than a minute. And now we've got a new virtual machine. If you wanted to deploy multiple virtual machines, you could run that same command multiple times manually. But ultimately, what we're going to be doing is using some PowerShell constructs, such as the for each commandlet, so that we can deploy a multitude of virtual machines. We'll talk about for each in a later video. All right, one last thing I want you to see about this virtual machine is that it is currently powered off. So let's go fix that in PowerCLI. Well, to do this in PowerCLI, we can use the start-vm commandlet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a variable called myVM, and it's going to be equal to some virtual machine object. I didn't save the virtual machine object when I ran that previous command, but I can always use the skills that we've already mastered to get information about that one VM. Why don't you hit the pause button and see if you can figure out how to do the following. I'll give you a hint. You're going to use git-vm, but what do you need to specify here to get that specific VM? All right, now that you've had a few moments to think about it, let's take a look at the command again. Up top, you'll notice that the virtual machine that I created was called myVM. So I'm simply going to repeat that here, look up information about the VM called myVM, and we're going to store the object that has that information in the variable called $myVM. So let's go ahead and hit enter. And now if we go to $myVM, you can see that we have information about that virtual machine, including the fact that that virtual machine is currently powered off. But we can fix that easily enough. We'll just do $myVM pipe start-VM. We'll hit enter, and notice PowerCLI is letting us know that it's performing that operation. PowerCLI lets us know that the virtual machine was powered off. Now it's powered on. And if you want to confirm this, we can go over to the vSphere client and notice that virtual machine is now powered on. Let's take a look at one more PowerCLI commandlet related to virtual machines. This is the New-Snapshot commandlet. Let's do $myVM pipe new-snapshot, hit enter. As you can see, I'm being prompted to give a name for this new snapshot. Now, if I wanted to, I could have specified that name via command line parameter, but let's go ahead and answer by typing the name here. Let's call this my snapshot. We'll hit enter. As you can see, PowerCLI indicated that we had taken that snapshot. We could also use a command line parameter to add a description for that snapshot, but whatever combination of parameters you use for new-snapshot, it's going to create, you guessed it, a new snapshot. We'll be taking a look at more snapshot-related commandlets in an upcoming video. But for right now, you're probably asking yourself, how does Brian know what all these commandlets are? And how does he know what parameters they accept? How does he know? Well, that's what we're going to be learning in the next video. So click that video and I'll see you there.